to Monty because of Kyle's speech, if he's still there. Kyle said, let's go to war, so give him exactly that.
In the beginning of the game, just based off of how she was, moving in the house, she wasn't really around me. She didn't really try to engage in conversations with me. She really never engaged in a lot of conversations with the girls. Even when we were around and she would be around, she would leave the room. She would hang with the guys. So genuinely, the read on her from the beginning was that she had a different strategy in play, and I kind of saw that in the beginning.
Welcome to the Secret Alliance podcast, where we talk about the game of Big Brother with the people who play it, like Hannah Chada, Rachel Riley, and this guy, Jason Guy. We got to get into it.
So I did not think that Turner would win HOH because he most definitely did not have to. He was insulated by the leftovers, he was insulated by the pound, and by the after party. So if you're aligned with every single person in the house and like actually aligned with them, then there's no reason for you to want to have power, because then you're going to end up pissing someone off, and that's bad jury management. So Turner was the one person where I was like, okay, he does not have to win. I don't think he should win, because even if Taylor wins, for example, and Turner ends up going on the block, it's only going to be in a pawn capacity. I don't see anyone targeting him. So I was a bit shocked about that. And then it seemed like he was wrestling with, do I kind of put up 2 after party members, or do I put up 2 leftover members? And originally he was leaning towards putting up Alyssa and Terrence, under the guise of we have to take out the last 2 non-leftovers. But then Kyle actually brought up a convincing point. He was like, listen, the insiders do not know what happened last week at Direfest. Right now, it's imperative that we blame everything on Joseph. And if Alyssa and Terrence go on the block, they might start singing like canaries, and we don't want that. So just put up Brittany and Taylor, and maybe you can backdoor Michael. Well, Michael ends up winning the veto. So that's out of question. And again, I don't think it's necessarily the fact that no one's been looking at Michael. They just haven't had the opportunity to take him out because he's either won a veto or been in power as HOH every single week, with the exception of 2 weeks. So then it seemed like Turner had settled on Taylor going home instead of Brittany, but then a bomb was dropped by Michael and Brittany. And I don't know if you want me to talk about that yet, but
Yes,
please. Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. Basically, in week 5, when Michael was HOH, Kyle walks up to him and says, I think there could be a Cookout 2.0 forming. I think house guests like Monty, Joseph, Taylor, Terrence, Jasmine, and Indy all have the same why for being here, and therefore they could be working together. So I think we need to, he was insinuating that all the white people needed to form an alliance to counter a potential POC alliance in the works. Now, I don't know where he would have gotten that, that wild assumption from. It would be one thing if he walked into a room and he saw all of them talking, and then as soon as he walked in, they got quiet. That would maybe tell him like, okay, there could perhaps be an alliance here. I need to be mindful of that. But it just didn't seem like that was the case. Half of the people that he named as supposedly being in the same alliance as Taylor had actively hated Taylor for like a majority of the game. But not just that. As POC, yes, we're always playing for something bigger than us. We always want to represent our people and our community in the best way. But that does not mean that my game goals align with someone else's game goals. So I just feel like that was unfair for Kyle to assume. And there doesn't need to be a Cookout 2.0 because we've already had a black winner. We did that last year. The 6 of us sacrificed our individual games so that future Black House guests and future POC would not have to, so that they wouldn't have to take on the same burden that we did. So yeah, Kyle's paranoia, it seems like, is getting the best of him, which is something that I predicted a long time ago. And as far as Michael and Brittany are concerned, I wish that they would have come forth with this information sooner to protect Monty and Taylor. And Taylor, they claim, is their very good friend. And this goes beyond the game. It's not just like I guess, insinuating or implying that all of the people of color are working together and you need to form a counter all white alliance. That's not just Big Brother anymore. That involves politics and racism and all of these like social factors that transcend the game. So I feel like if they were being truly genuine, then they would have gone to house guests like Monty, Taylor, and Terrence beforehand. Now it seems like their backs are against the wall. The house is clearly divided in two. And if they hadn't come forth with this information, then their side was going to take a hit. So it seems a little too convenient for me. And those are my thoughts.
I think Michael should have gone to Monty immediately. And that's what I would have done in that house, because that's like personal. It's not game. So it's like how to separate these things and like how to discuss them, I guess, is what I'm kind of, does that make any sense?
For sure. And I appreciate you asking me, because these topics are very delicate, very heavy, to quote Alyssa from season 24, and incredibly precarious, and you want to be careful. So yes, I appreciate your questions. With Kyle, he was in a very protected spot. He had the leftovers. He had the pound, which was like the core four of the leftovers. He had his showmance with Alyssa. He seemed to be tight with Terrence. So it's not even like he was on the outs and he needed to like throw a Hail Mary to stay in the house. He brought that to Michael's attention at a point when he wasn't really even vulnerable. So that tells me that was his unconscious biases, his implicit biases, his racism seeping into the way that he wanted to play the game. And again, there was no valid reason for him to even make that assumption, because those people had not been seen in the same room. They, to my knowledge, had never really talked game. Half of the people of color in the house said the nastiest, most vile things about Taylor for a majority of the game. Mm-hmm. So what would indicate that they're working together purely based on skin color? And when Michael and Brittany attempted to ask him that question, he said, "Oh, because of the cookout." So what that's telling me is 6 Black people last year thing. Therefore, the Black people in the POC in the house this season must be doing the exact same thing. When has that ever applied to all white alliances? And most of the alliances Big Brother have only consisted of white people. Mm-hmm. So I understand what you're saying. Like, okay, was he maybe strategic? Was he intentional about the information that he brought forth to Michael? Was he just trying to set himself up? But I don't believe it benefited him in a game sense. I think that's what he was actually thinking. And to me, there are certain things that, in my opinion, should be off the table when it comes to a $750,000 game. And that includes speaking about people's families, people's children, especially, and things like racism or sexism or homophobia. I don't believe that bigotry is a valid game strategy. I know I say any strategy is a strategy, but let's leave that at home outside of the doors of whatever the address of CBS's studio lot is. Yeah, but I appreciate that question, Rachel.
I see it on Twitter and I'm just like, I think people don't understand what your point is, Hannah, that it's not game. It's hard. I mean, it's like, it is a very delicate thing to say. And I don't want to approach it in a way that I want to understand, like I want to make sure that I understand how you feel as well. And like, and I don't know, like the thing is about too, that I'm confused about with the strategy with Michael bringing it now, like what you said. Mm-hmm. I do think that, in my opinion, like, why are you using this as a game strategy? Like you said, like, don't use kids, don't use families, don't attack people on a way that's like not game related. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it's crazy to see that this is going on. And I don't know, like, I think we're all probably exhausted from seeing these things, right? Is that how you feel? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Because I think Big Brother is a microcosm of the real world. That's what people love to say. And in the real world, as a person of color, as a Black person, you never want to seem too threatening, because people due to their unconscious and implicit biases, will always have that extra guard up around you because of what we've been conditioned to think about those who don't look like us, if that makes sense. So we will have to take extra measures to not seem threatening, such as never raising our voices, such as not wanting to be seen or associated with a large group of Black people, because that may come across as more intimidating than a singular Black person. So there are all of these things that we go through life having to be completely conscientious about and mindful of, that people who don't look like us have to. So it's just, or sorry, that, yeah. So it's just disheartening for me to see the Black house guests this season have to go through that, because that was not our experience last season. And I also feel for all of the Black house guests that came before the cookout, because I can only imagine how much more traumatizing their Big Brother experience was than every Big Brother player ever, because what we all went through was very unique, and only a few of us can truly understand. And then when you add the element of being the only Black person or the only person of color in your house, that just, like I said, it adds another layer of trauma. And historically speaking, in this game, Black house guests have not been treated well at all. So like I said, I feel for how triggering seeing this could be for them, for Black viewers, for viewers of color, and for Monty, Taylor, and Terrence.
What do we say to them, and what they're hearing, what's being said about them online right now?
Yeah. I think it's important that we hold all three of them accountable. Just because they are Black house guests like Taylor does not excuse any of their behavior towards Taylor. It's just a matter of seeing whether they're sincerely apologetic. And I've had one conversation with Amira about that, and it seems as though she is. So we'll just have to see how these house guests act, and we'll have to see if their actions match their words. In my opinion, it's just important that Taylor feels comforted, safe, supported, and loved. That's really all I care about.
Yeah.
And we want to be here to do that when she comes out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd like it to be with the $750,000 check.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's with the $750, and she just won that E11 thing, so that's pretty cool.
I know. I want to say I'm so proud of her, but I don't know her personally. Also, I just feel like her, me, Tiffany, and Azza, we're gonna be a dynamic quad.
So what you're saying is we'll be seeing a lot of you together on Instagram or wherever. Maybe in another show.
I just hang out with me. That's all.
Well, I want to hang out too, so include me.
Yeah.
And while we're hanging out, let's hear what Jasmine thought of the leftovers and much more.
Well, I will definitely tell you that I did not know about the 7-person alliance. But I do think it is going to implode. I think it's kind of weird to make such a big alliance so close to the end of the game, because at some point really soon you're going to have to start knocking somebody out of the alliance, and it just won't work. So I definitely think if anybody implodes it, though, it's going to be Kyle, because I think Alyssa's going to pull it out of him either way, through showmance or through just regular, friendship. I think that he's going to end up spilling. Well, I will say that my ankle still hurts a little. It's definitely not as bad as it was in the very beginning. Again, I had a level 4 sprain, so that's almost a break, and it was very painful to say the least. I am starting to learn how to walk again, but it's still a struggle. I will say that it was not a ploy. It really did hurt, and it really did hurt for a long time. Towards the end, though, I just tried to use it to milk it out a little bit more as long as I could, so people wouldn't put me on the block. But I don't think that it hindered my game any. I think if anything, it kind of helped it a little bit, because people didn't want to put me on the block because they didn't think I had a fair chance at fighting for that veto to save myself. Honestly, I would have loved to, have Amira by my side as we kicked ass through the game, but unfortunately that just did not work. But when I started to see people get picked off, I just started to realize that my strategy was going to have to change, and it was going to have to change fast. So I really wanted that last HOH because I was going to go for some big targets and try to reassure people that, I'm the person that they would like to keep in this game because I'm going to make those big moves and help their game further. But, it didn't happen, but I feel like everything that's meant to be will always be. I will definitely say that I'm rooting for Taylor. She's been through so much in that house. And again, I've gotten to know her so much better. And I think she is just an amazing woman. And I would love to see a strong woman win this game. I think that Michael, however, is playing the best game because he's smart, he's strategic, he's a comp beast, and now he has people that he's aligned with that can help further his game. But if there was one person I would like to see in jury with me, it would definitely be Joseph, simply because he was one of the people that, told everyone about the alliance we had together and kind of helped in them gathering the rest of the information to kind of, pull me aside and let me know. But, ultimately, as long as Taylor's not coming in that jury house, then I'll be okay. I definitely think that, in the beginning of the game, just based off of how she was, moving in the house, she wasn't really around me. She didn't really try to engage in conversations with me. She really never engaged in a lot of conversations with the girls. Even when we were around and she would be around, she would leave the room. She would hang with the guys. So genuinely, the read on her from the beginning was that she had a different strategy in play. And I kind of saw that in the beginning, but I do regret not standing up for her in the moment where Daniel kind of attacked her, because I don't feel like anyone should be attacked, much less a woman. And I feel like it was so soon in the game that I was too afraid to really just stand up in that moment. I didn't want to mess up my game, to be completely honest, but I did let her know that was one of my biggest regrets. Personally, I think she's an amazing woman, and I'm so appreciative that she did have my back. I do think we had two different strategies coming into the game, and hopefully we can be friends outside this house, because I think she's an amazing woman, and I got to get to know her a lot more in my last few weeks in the house.
Let's get some comments here after hearing what we got as the exit interview from Jasmine, and we had these questions. What are your thoughts right now about what she had to say to that? Did anything stand out?
Yes. Okay. Very similar to Indy, Jasmine has completely pivoted and is now the biggest supporter of and I don't understand why or how. I mean, I understand why. Taylor's awesome, but is it because she spent a very intimate week with her at Big Brochella, since there were only 5 of them? So Jasmine couldn't really avoid Taylor like the plague anymore. And maybe the more she talked to her, the more she realized Taylor's actually a queen. I don't know if she was influenced by some of her press questions. I really don't understand what we're seeing with Indy and Jasmine, but what this does tell me is if Taylor makes it to the end, she is getting Jasmine's vote. Even if she's sitting next to Michael, she may just get Jasmine's vote. So a couple weeks ago, I would have said like Taylor can really only win sitting next to someone like Terrence or sitting next to someone like Brittany. But now I think Taylor, if she makes it to final 2, may just be able to beat anyone. So that's what I learned from Jasmine's interview.
100%. I also learned that I kind of like Jasmine. I know it's so silly, but like she's very likable, and I see why. I wish we would have seen more of the cute Jasmine that we saw in that interview and the cute Jasmine that we saw. Like, we got to see little pieces of her, silly Southernness and her phrases that were so adorable. But I realized that I think she is a very likable character in Big Brother, and I was sad to see her go. And I'm happy that she's on Team Taylor. I'm happy that she is, I think she would vote for Taylor over Michael at this point. And Michael might have blown up his game this week, to be honest, because I don't know that Michael can win anymore. And I would have never said that because he's been running the game. But I think Indy, Jasmine, Joseph, she needs 2 more votes. I think she'll get them.
I mean, it's an interesting thought there. What do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I think she has Indy, Joseph, as lock, and I do feel like the first 3 to 4 jury members are the most influential because they kind of set the tone of the rest of the jury phase as more and more house guests enter the jury house, or at least what I experienced on my season. And I can definitely see that being a thing. So if you have the first 3 jurors who are Taylor all the way, I could see them kind of like getting information from subsequent jurors and spinning it in a way that favors Taylor. And I'm more than happy about that. Yeah.
Okay. And I did love that Jasmine was honest with us. She said, nope, didn't know there was the 7 personal lines. Like she came clean. I love where everybody else was. Oh, I think I had seen that. And I knew some stuff and I was piecing it together. And she was like, nope, guys, I didn't know. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for telling us, because we saw everything. You didn't know about the leftovers yet. And then Rachel, I love this thing that you put in there, and they were very kind to put this. What did you say? You were like, you had a little like Jasmine-ism for her.
I don't remember.
What did you say to her? You wrote it down and they read it. They read it. Thank you.
I know I said something like, you're prettier than a Sunday barbecue or something.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you what you said. You're prettier than a freshly baked pecan pie at a Sunday barbecue before the big game, and sweeter than sweet tea from the Sweet Tea Grill, which I guess she gets some of those references. And then she said this. It was really cute.
Well, thank you so much, honey. I think the Secret Alliance podcast is as cool as a strawberry cheesecake in a picnic basket.
I had to Google the sweetest sweet tea in Georgia.
I feel like she knew what that place was. And Sammy, thank you for asking that and throwing that out there from the PR team. That was very cool of them, because I thought for sure it was just going to get nixed. Okay, on to the other evictee, and this one really, I mean, watching Taylor, it really sent shockwaves through that side of the house that had been inside during this kind of divided Thursday night and the week leading up into it. When we saw that Joseph was no longer in this game, I mean, Taylor was stunned, and it really hurt her heart. I mean, it was deep the way it impacted her to see his departure.
Yeah, that was really, really hard. I felt like I was in that spot just watching her cry in the diary room. But you know what I think was the worst was that the house guests wanted to gaslight her about it. Like Hannah said, like, what the hell is wrong with them? Like, I just can't handle it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It was, and I feel like Joseph and Taylor are going to have a very good relationship out of this. I hope it's a showmance. You never know. But like, no matter what, they're going to have like the best relationship. I mean, they'll be friends forever.
I hope so, because they're really adorable to watch. And Joseph has been the only person in the house who really stuck his neck out just to be nice to Taylor when everyone was ostracizing her at the beginning and bullying her and isolating her. And he was getting some backlash from people like Amira and from Nicole and Daniel for looking at Taylor as a human being. And even though that's literally just doing the bare minimum, like he was being a decent person, that's more than every other house guest was doing. So I can understand why Taylor feels so crushed. On top of it just being hard to say bye to anyone, let alone your best friend in the house. Like Rachel, you had to say bye to Brendan twice.
Yeah, it's so hard.
That ripped my heart in half. Jason, you had to say bye to Danielle. So you guys completely understand. Or I guess the 3 of us have like some sliver of an understanding of what she's going.
But she, in Joseph, though, had so many times where she could look to him as this rock and this ally, and she could really confide in him. And she needed that because of what she was facing in the house, and still is. And now she doesn't have that person. Yeah. And that is a very, very tough situation, I think, for Taylor in the house.
I think so, too. Losing Joseph really did pull at my heartstrings because he was the only person besides Taylor that I was like actively rooting for, not just like, oh, I'd be okay with them winning. But I was like, if I'm not Team Taylor, then I'm Team Joseph. And we lost. He was such a strategic player. He never stopped playing the game 24/7. That man was on, and he was just a joy to watch. And I'm going to miss seeing his smile on TV.
Yeah, I'm also going to miss all the cute moments that Taylor and Joseph had. Like, they had so many cute moments. That's why I'm like, I hope there's showmance, but if they're not, like, okay, I get it. But like,
Yes.
so many cute moments where you could just tell they were genuinely enjoying themselves in there. And sometimes, honestly, that game is just about finding someone that you can enjoy yourself with, because it's just like, it's such a hard game to play. And it's so we have so much downtime, as you both know. And it's just like, when you find that person that you can just laugh with, it's like like life changing, right? It makes all the difference in the world.
For sure.
Yeah.
I blame myself. I definitely, absolutely blame myself. A dire mistake, no pun intended, is getting comfortable in that house. And, I started to get too distracted by the fact that we are a team. And I tried to get people to, take that ideology with me and with them. And, at the end of the day, it is an individual game. And I do know that. But, we're not even at half the house guests yet. So I hope people could have just stayed true to that aspect. It takes a team to get to the end. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I definitely got too comfortable as a member of the Leftovers. Who am I to be, trusting my game with these people and throwing competitions? But from a strategy standpoint, I was considered a physical threat, and I most definitely wanted to maintain that I'm not, and I'm clueless, and I'm under the radar, and I wanted to keep maintaining that. And I did have some really good friends on the other side. I didn't want to put their blood on my hands. I would say my ability to choose and make decisions that weren't in my best interest, but in the best interest of, the mission of the team or for other people. Because in a house where you are given every opportunity and every reason to be selfish, it's hard not to be. So, just fighting against those desires and those urges that aren't necessarily good can be hard. And I tried my best to make sure I do that. Kyle never really entertained the opportunity or the idea of sending Alyssa home and going back to reunite with the Leftovers, which I think would have been better for all our games, not just his. It did hurt hearing that, knowing I'm the target, I'm on the block, I'm in these difficult circumstances at Direfest, living outside. And he just took a route that was short-sighted and short-termed and just immediately went with self-preservation in the moment. And I didn't think that, that was very strategic of him. And I think there was a chance that even if he didn't attack me, we could have all united and sent Alyssa home to some extent and, maybe gained Terrence on our side in an instance where, a crazy set of events, the Leftovers were over inside, we could have had Terrence. But, Kyle just went with self-preservation and an emotional decision to keep his showman. So that was his choice to make. My friendships, my personal relationships, they were all real. I was extremely close with these people. I loved them so much and so dearly, and I will have a relationship with them outside of this game for sure. And I knew that was a double-edged sword because it was the same reason I couldn't get back to them. I was so strong with all of them that I couldn't get back to them. So I tried to make it seem like I'm volunteering information about them, or it seems like I'm open to betraying them by giving information that I already knew they knew. It was very, very surface level and very upfront information that I previously discussed with Kyle and Turner, or the Leftovers has talked about it. And now that it looks like I'm speaking about it, it looks like I'm open to betraying them. So I try to, put this dialogue or create this perception that, here's some things about them to make it seem, but overall, I knew Kyle knew all this stuff. I knew they already locked in on something. So if I had any fighting chance and didn't want to lay down and die, I had to build up this idea that those relationships I was willing to throw away. I think Michael's playing the best game so far. Taylor as well. She's been fighting against all odds. I respect Monty's game. It's definitely a difficult decision not having the full picture yet. But next in the jury house to join me, I would hope to see, honestly, Kyle, Turner. I don't know who left from Brochella. Probably Jasmine. But definitely Kyle or Turner, because, switching up so quickly on a dime, needs to happen in the game sometimes, but not all the time. And, just trying to make it week by week, I don't think is a long-term goal. So although, they're still my friends and everything, in terms of the way they're playing, I would love to see them, come hang out with me. To Monty, because of Kyle's speech, if he's still there. Monty, Kyle said, let's go to war. So give him exactly that.
Anything that really stood out for either of you?
How cute when he smiles about Taylor.
No, their friendship is, whether they're more than friends, not more than friends, either way, the two of them just complement each other so well. And I find them to be incredibly endearing and kind people. And I hope both of them want to hang out with me after the season. I would be, but the one thing that stood out to me about Joseph's interview was that everything he exposed about Taylor's game and Monty's game and Michael's game and Brittany's game were things that the outsiders already knew. He was doing it just to make it look like he wasn't as close to the insiders, but really if they had evicted Kyle and kept Joseph would have gone right back to rocking with the insiders. So the outsiders were actually smart to get rid of Joseph. It made perfect sense for Terrence's game. It made decent sense for Turner's game. So I'm not mad about them for evicting Joseph. And I'm also not mad about Joseph for exposing some of the insiders' information and secrets. That's the nature of Big Brother. When your back's against the wall, you have to start throwing out those Hail Marys. But I'm just glad that he didn't do it with the sole intent to sink like Taylor's game or Michael, Brittany, and Monty's games. So yeah, I'm still Team Joseph.
And he took a lot of what happened in there really upon himself. We asked him, who do you blame? And he said, me. And it takes a lot to say that instead of, oh, well, Kyle threw my game under the bus and did he really is a stand-up guy. And you see that in this interview and other interviews out there and the Joseph that we watched in the Big Brother house too.
Yeah.
I think Joseph will be back. I mean, if he wants to be, I assume he would be asked to be back. Yeah, right. I know. Crossing fingers. I think he's one of those players that was truly, we did not get to see him play the full game. And I would love to see him play in there with like, I don't know, maybe like more legends or people that I just feel like weren't just coming after him. And I know I agree. Terrence had to get him out. That was the biggest thing. And Terrence was HOH. Mm-hmm. So, but I think we'll see him play again. I'm hoping.
I hope so. I definitely think he just tapped into his potential. I see Joseph as a very adaptable player and he's so young. He just turned 25. So I'd be really curious to see how he's already aware and mature. I'd love to see him come back when he's like 28, 29 and play again.
Yeah, I agree. These thoughts are really exciting too. Just start to thinking about a Big Brother All-Star, another edition, Hannah in the mix. Yes. Oh,
yes, Hannah, you gotta do it.
I'm here for it. I'm watching that. Hey, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Hannah. And for this episode with Joseph and Jasmine, we thank them for their thoughts and insights. And thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Check out past seasons of The Secret Alliance. We have interviews with so many Big Brother legends on this channel. Those videos are just waiting for you.